5 mistakes to avoid when migrating your website with Sara Moccand. In Search SEO podcast is brought to you by Rank Ranger, the all-in-one SEO platform that helps scale your business through data and analytics. Hey, it's David. Have you ever been involved in a catastrophic website migration? Maybe you've been brought into a project to deal with the effects of a badly thought-through website migration. Today we're going to be discussing 5 key mistakes to avoid when migrating your website, with a lady who last year gave in and subscribed to Netflix and Disney+. She's co-host of SEO Nerd Switzerland Meetup and SEO specialist at LIP, a web and mobile development agency with 6 offices in Switzerland. A warm welcome to the In Search SEO podcast, Sara Moccand.
Hi.
Hey, Sara. Well, you can find Sara over at liip.ch. So, Sara, why is website migration such a big issue for SEOs?
Mainly because you can lose all the organic traffic and is a source of revenue, I would say. So that is the main reason. Then everybody have to be very, very careful in a website migration.
So today we're talking about the 5 key mistakes to avoid when migrating your website. So starting off with number 1, poor planning.
Yeah, exactly that. So one of the things that I realize is then one of the biggest mistake is the poor planning. So I have a couple of examples. A poor planning can start from the beginning by, for example, in an agency selling the wrong number of days, which makes then after you have to rediscuss the budget and it makes it extremely complicated. So there are several examples that you can have, but let's start with the main problems are obviously you don't get things implemented the way that you want if you don't plan properly. And the second problem, as we said before, it was the loss of traffic. That is the catastrophic scenario, the loss of traffic. And then the solution that you can have there when you plan, the thing that you have to do, it's learn the name of everybody that is involved. That is the secret sauce. Learn who is the developer, who is the front end, back end, learn the designer, learn everything that you can about their name and what they do, so then you can always contact them. Each website migration, it's linked to a new project, obviously. So you have the project then as a plan. So there you can see exactly where SEO can interact, and that is important to keep it in mind. So, for example, at the beginning, developers, what they will do, they will choose the technology to work with. It's always interesting for an SEO to know which technology and how you should, which technology they plan, and maybe you can also influence a bit the technology. Sometimes, not very often, but sometimes. And so this is just an example about learning exactly the overall planning and figure out where you can interact.
So there are many things that you can include in a plan, of course, but are there many standard elements that you would incorporate within a plan, or is each project quite unique?
No, I would say they are 3 standard things. Then is you know when the technology is chosen, know when designer will start to design the architecture of the website, and then at the end then is really knowing at which point it will go live, and then calculate when almost the website will be ready. Then you can analyze it and analyze the staging to make sure when they go live. So this brings me to the breakdown in a certain sense of the website migration, because this smarter way, I don't know if I should say it like this, but it's to have your plan and then break it down, saying, okay, you have a phase of preparation, which is where you interact with the developer. You have, and there you also analyze how the website is doing, which pages are important, etc., etc. And you will also prepare your redirect map. Then you have the test on staging, where you test everything, because whatever is on staging will go live. 100% sure that. So if there is a problem there, it will be a problem after.
You also mentioned URLs there as well. And I guess some website migrations are easier than others. Some you just might be migrating servers and just keeping the same technology, CMS, the same URLs possibly as well. What happens if you're changing every single URL or the majority of URLs because you have to? Maybe you're moving from something that's got ASP, for example, at the end of URLs into a fairly plain URL. Is it possible, do you think, to keep all your rankings and change URLs at the same time?
So that is, as I work in a development company, obviously people come to do that. They don't come to just change a little bit the server. So what they do is exactly that. They want to change everything. That is my problem. So yes, no, it works. You have to do your redirects. You have to do your redirect map. You have a time then search engine need to adapt a little bit. If most of the times it works fine, because when you do your redirect map, the goal is to do it smart. So, for example, you know that a page is ranking for something specific, then you will redirect it to the same topic. So then you have to be a little bit careful in your redirect map, and then it works. And that it's, again, the most case scenario that I've seen is exactly that, where they change everything.
One other follow-up question in relation to what you said there. You said that sometimes search engines need a little bit of time to adapt. How much time is reasonable to give to search engines before you should be seeing the same rankings that you had before?
Okay. Before I said no. I said before you panic and you realize, okay,
before
that is over. No, I would say then it depends, but is I've seen sometimes which they don't change everything, but they change quite a bit and then adapt quite fast. And I would say maximum a month. In a month and a half. If after that is not adapting,
then there's some problem somewhere, yes. So let's move on to number 2, not testing redirects.
Yes, so that I have some, let's do the hall of shame, a couple of examples where I did poorly. And I remember at the beginning, once I organized my redirect map, everything was fine, and then I gave it to I tested, the developer prepared everything, I tested, and I said myself, oh, everything is fine. Then I went live, and when we went live, I was like, oh, what's happening there? And then I realized that it was generating a redirect chain, which I was a bit surprised about it. And then, I was lucky enough to have a very good relationship with the developers, which helped me on the spot on fixing that. So that it was like one case scenario. Then it was like, I tested, but I didn't test it well enough because I did have to realize it before going live. And another time, always to continue the hall of shame and be aware how important it is to test everything perfectly. I remember there was a website with many countries, but there was like specific rule for the URL. So I asked the developer like, hey, please help me do a script for me so we will go faster. And then he did the script, and then I booked half a day with the developer to test. But then he said, hey, Sara, I tested. And I say, oh, fantastic. If you already did it, fantastic. But let me try one country. So I tested US, and I said, everything is working. Great. Thank you, boy. Give me 5. Okay, we did it. Then we went live. And live, I checked everything, obviously. And when I checked everything, I was like, what's happening? Where is Japan? Where is Kuwait? So we migrate everything, but we were missing Japan and Kuwait, which I did have to realize it before they go live, obviously. And again, lucky because they helped me to recover immediately, so there were not real repercussions because it happened in the day that we correct everything. But that is like a problem now. You have to test it.
Yeah, and I
before.
guess that also relates to point 3, because point 3 is not auditing the staging.
Yes, that is part of point 3 for sure. I would say, but like, it's part of point 3, because in the reality, like when at the beginning, what I was doing, I had my tickets and I was checking, then everything was fine in the staging. Okay, on the staging website, you test. Okay, everything is fine, fantastic. The tickets are implemented. But then I realized then I was not auditing like I would audit a website normally. And there you realize, okay, for example, you start to see weird stuff. I remember this website. Then it happened recently, this, and thank you, God, I audited. And it was that it was doing server-side rendering. Perfect. So I could see everything in the code source, so I was happy. But I have a problem with hidden elements. I always check hidden elements. And what happened, it was the JavaScript was behaving super weirdly. So it was removing all the text from the hidden element. So you could see it, but not in the code. And yes, that is an example of how important it is to audit the staging website and to check all the implementation. Another thing that you need to do is to have your own checklist. Prepare the checklist, like with all the tasks, like exactly in an auditing, all the tasks, and then you can always have a column. For example, if you use a Google Doc, Google Sheet or whatever, have a column like, okay, for this task I have a ticket. For this task is not required a ticket. For example, for the JavaScript case that I gave, it's you then do it. You don't open a ticket. You open it just if there is a problem. And then you give your list of priority on another column, the status. So which status you are, to do, in progress, done. And then you comment. Comments are super important. Everybody let them away, but comments are important because you need to know why something is getting blocked. So for example, is a person that is blocking, is another ticket that is blocking. You need to know to deblock it. So yes, that is a little bit about auditing the staging and the importance. Also because it depends, but some developer will also use, for example, the no index before on all the pages, in the HTML code, and then they will forget to remove it when they go live. So the problem is then you have to be aware that they're using it, so then you can remember, okay, so remember to remove the no index before going live, please.
And step number 4, or point number 4 to avoid, is migrating in a period of high demand.
Yes, so this is, should be obvious, because you have like this problem of losing traffic, or at least for a short period of time. It is not always like this. Again, it depends on the website migration, but there is a risk of time of adapting. And then if you have this time of adapting risk, then let's say then you are in e-commerce. Between probably October and the end of December, you don't want to migrate your website because Christmas is coming and a lot of people will buy to your e-commerce at that time. So that is something then, or your client, anyway, the client normally know, again, agency side, so for that I say client, knows exactly, okay, in that period I have, it's where I have a high demand. So normally you can check analytics and you can check with the client to avoid that problem.
Now, you mentioned earlier on, you mentioned some developers might even put no index on every page to actually try and avoid pages being indexed. Mistake number 5 is having the staging indexed. So would you advise that no index tag on every page in the staging environment to avoid that kind of thing?
No, the solution is password protected, is always the solution. Because why? Because exactly, the no index, okay, fantastic, but then they forgot to, when they go live, no? So at the end, the best solution that always work is to be password protected, full stop. And I remember once the staging that got indexed some years ago. And that was probably the most shocking experience that I had. Staging got indexed, and the problem was that it was, you could buy a client where it was an activity, so you could buy tickets, okay? The problem was then the people were trying to buy the tickets on the staging website. That it was a little bit catastrophic, if you can imagine people trying to buy on the staging website. So yes, so they contacted me because they say, hey, we have this problem, could you solve it? And I was like, okay, yes, we can solve it that because it's relatively easy to solve. So yes, that's probably one of the main points for me. It's like, I have also developers then put password protector and they put the no index. They put both. So I need to be careful, like not just to check, okay, it's password protected. Oh, okay, no problem. Not to check that there is the no index, yes or no, because if not, we go live with the no index.
So I'm sure that you could have expanded this conversation to 101 mistakes to avoid when migrating a website. But hopefully we got your top 5 there as well. So that's great stuff from Sara there. So let's finish off with
the Pareto pickle.
So Pareto says you can get 80% of your results from 20% of your efforts. So what's one SEO activity you would recommend that provides incredible results for modest levels of effort?
So for me, in a website migration is the planning. It is you plan, you take a little bit of time in planning. It's not like an enormous time compared to the work that you have to do, but you are structured, and then you don't do mistakes, and then you save yourself a lot of time because each mistake asks for time to recover from the mistake. So yes, for sure is planning.
Plan properly. I've been your host, David Bain. You can find Sara over at liip.ch. Sara, thanks so much for being on the In Search SEO podcast.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening. Check out all the previous episodes and sign up for a free trial of the Rank Ranger platform over at rankranger.com.